Welcome back to our how-to series, everyone. First of all, thank you so much to everyone's interactions on these videos, and I truly do hope you continue finding them helpful and useful, even if in the slightest. Right, with that out of the way, let's hop into it. Our episode objectives is interactions on objects and item requirements. Right, I just want to put a pin in the door unlock system because I feel like that solution would be quite unique because we are trying to interact with specific doors very uniquely, if that makes sense. Because for each door, we would like to trigger a different event, right? And here's the thing. To me, the solution seems simple, right? We could just add the box zones at each door in code, but what if this is something we want to sell or distribute, right? With extremely easy setup, how will we allow people to easily select where the doors are and, give each of those doors then a custom minigame, right? So while I'm thinking of a solution for that specifically, because I think it is quite a niche requirement, we'll focus on working on the item interactions and item requirements. This will specifically be for when we try to steal or, grab the phones, right? On the models, we already set up the targeting system on them, and we had our test thread running here, which worked a-okay. And this was what? For the stage. Now, this was only a test. Let's see. I can't recall where I moved it to. Here we go. Trigger stage 1. Right. So instead of triggering it, we will enable our test thread once more. Once that is enabled, I want to get the server running real quick. While that's getting up and running, I want us to work on some code, right? Because what will happen when we interact on the phone item, we will call this client event attempt to take item. Right, the reason we call it attempt to take item is because they may or may not actually be able to take the item. So what will we do? First of all, we will check to see if the player has the wire cutters or similar object in their inventory. Right, once that has been confirmed, only then we play the minigame. Right? And if remove item is enabled, we also remove the item from the inventory. Okay? But this we will do in tandem with this check over here. Right. And then we will play the minigame. While success is null, we will wait. Right? So do recall that in our client customize, we have an event to trigger the actual minigame. And we could, of course, do that. I'm just trying to think, is there a way for us to basically create a callback from client to client? Let's see in Oxlib what their module or modules allow us to do. So, not interface. I mean, hello, callback. There we go. Not JavaScript though. That might actually be useful for me, to be honest, but don't stress about it. Right. The response is handled in a separate routine. Trigger a server callback. I don't want to trigger a server callback. Register a client callback. Lib callback register and do some things. Right. Okay, here's the thing. We can theoretically do a callback with an event. And please don't ask me how I used to do it. I cannot recall. So let's do FiveM event callbacks. Let's do that one. Not NUI callbacks. Let's just look at what this has for us right now. So we'll have our event handler function taking in an argument. We'll get some things and return data. Well, that is what they asked about. However, this is where it comes in. Right. So you'd have to set a callback to implement something like this. I'm going to give you an example. So let's just copy that straight up. Thanks to Shazam. Right. Making my time so much easier. Right. So we'll start off taking a callback in as an argument. And right. I don't want to use PMC callbacks, that's the thing. However, let's see what it does. Import Lua, function ensure. If a server, let's put a pin in that one specifically. Okay, let's just try and understand the code that we have here already. Right, let us forget about the MySQL query, because that is unnecessary. Right, so arguments is always a table. Data is what came from our MySQL query. However, ours would not be. So, in our case, this is what our event name would be called. And we'll trigger an event with a function that takes in data. Okay, so here's how it'll work, right? Just gonna duplicate this code into that right there. We can do is the following. We'll have source and args, right? And then we will have args dot mini settings args dot and data. No, what are we returning? We are returning success, right? So we just take that out, slap it in there, right? And there as well. So we'll just have the callback. Right. That we will do that with args. Will be not trigger event, so we'll have to cut that out. Trigger minigame, register net event, and add event handler. We already have that, so let's go into our client main, where we have this. So where we play our minigame, we will trigger an event, right? Our event name would be in underscore then Heist client, right? Play minigame, right? We will have args, and we will have our function. And what will our function have? As per this thread, data. Function data, which is basically the callback data. Right. Success is obviously what we're looking for. And args will be a table. So local args, let me just see, where else do we have this? Okay. Let's see here real quick. Trigger minigame. Okay, so obviously there is a lot we have to do. Right, this should also be args, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Because remember, in our client, let me just move it over. In our client, and do that real quick. Okay, we're taking in source, arguments, and a callback, right? So this would be standard for trigger minigame. Right, in our exports, we do what? Trigger a server event to trigger a heist, right? And update door state with a callback success, or trigger notification. Okay, so part of our args, we have to give something else. Right, so what I want to do is, in this argument table, I want to do the following. We want to give it what? Let us just think here. How can we generalize it? How can we generalize it? Didn't mean to do that. I mean to press enter. So in our arguments, what would we like to do? There's one thing that we have to look at first, and if that is A or B, then we do a certain thing. So maybe reason, right, is in this case it would be steal, right? And that would be our only argument, right? That would be our only argument. So function, and then if success, then end, right? If, well, first we have to check for the item and remove it, then we trigger the minigame, and I'll just cut that and paste that in there, and we don't have to have that anymore, right? Because we have a callback. We already have a callback that relies on success. Okay. Success over here is not needed. And then our trigger minigame, let me just go figure out that argument statement. So let's copy that and go to trigger minigame over here. We will do this. Arguments, reason. Give it door is the reason. Door name is what? Current door name. Let me just copy this and paste that in there. So we will have door hash is equal to hello equal to current door hash. Dang. Minigame is equal to current minigame, and current minigame not settings, mini settings is equal to current minigame settings. So these two in particular, I believe, should be sent before the door name and hash. Why? Because these will be our general statements, and that should replace this. So args will be sent in trigger minigame. Right, play minigame. We don't have a play minigame anymore. We only have a trigger minigame. So trigger minigame, giving the args and expecting a callback. So our reason here would be steal. The minigame probably be what? Let's go look at Flow minigames again. Let's see what options they have. Right, minigames, let's look. Let us look. Glow minigames, spot, and settings. So let's do that. Minigame settings, so let's do that, and just give it settings for now so that we can have this in a config file later on. So we'll tell it to play the spot minigame with these settings. So initializing this variable and sending the specific arguments to trigger minigame, this is what will happen, and we will do a bunch of things. Right, first of all, we can just keep args.mininame, and it won't be that, but it will be minigame and not mininame. Right, mini settings, still the same, and we will have a reason now. So let's think about this. When we trigger this event, we tell it a reason why we are triggering it, who's triggering it, and we have to send a message back. Okay, then we just set our settings. I mean, we could even just do this. paste that in there and just have that be that, right? So then this export is already generalized. So the logic within it is the only thing that has to differ, right? So depending on the reason of our call, you see, and this is where it becomes a bit difficult, right? I would rather have if args.reason is equal to door, then end. So I would rather keep it separate like this. Else if args.reason is, what was the other one? Steal, right? Then end. Now I'll explain what I mean by separate. So we have the door logic separate from the steal logic, because if you elect to use a different minigame script, this way you'll also be able to use different minigames or even different minigame scripts for each objective, right? So for the steal function, or logic for that matter, what will we do? We won't trigger the heist, right? We will also not update the door state, but we might possibly trigger a police alarm if they fail, right? Triggers police alert on fail. You're welcome to comment it out. Right, so this is basically an optional feature, so that if you fail to safely cut the wire, the police gets alerted. And on success, we will do what? We will want to give the specific item. Actually, it doesn't matter, right? We will just call back that it was successful. Very different to this. And in fact, we may even remove that. Why? Because if we then go to the second occurrence of it, right, obviously having the function would be the second technically argument, if you will, and it will say if success, then we do some things. What did I just do here? Then end. I have no clue what buttons I pressed to achieve that, honestly. Sometimes I just confuse myself. So what do we do here? If it's a success, we call back success, otherwise we trigger a notification. So what we can do alternatively is remove that completely and do that as well. Remove that and remove that. Save that so that it is as bare bones as you can get, so that whoever sets up the script only worries about the callback part of it. Then back in here, in our else end, we will paste that, and we could even do if c dot door dot trigger alarm, then yeah, thank you, end. So what this will do is if we head into our config, in our door config over here, we do trigger alarm is equal to true, right? What this will do is on a failed unlock attempt, it will trigger a dispatch message. Right, so true is equal to that, and then false is equal to won't trigger a dispatch message. Okay, and let me just see what I currently have copied. Trigger notification, yeah, that's fine. I can just recopy that later on. So I'm going to copy that, and not door, but stage settings. We have stage models, stage settings, trigger alarm. Trigger alarm true. On a failed steal attempt, it'll trigger a dispatch message. Otherwise, it won't. So, if door.trigger alarm, then we trigger that. So basically, if they failed the minigame, right, and if they enabled trigger alarm, we will trigger an alarm, right? Otherwise, we just go through the rest of the code, no problem. Right, as for over here, let me go back here and copy this logic, because we'll reuse it. Right. So, triggering a minigame, if stage settings.trigger alarm, then trigger the notification. Right. If they play the minigame for steal reason, we will add an item if we can. How do we do that? Very simple. We've already written an event to handle that logic for us, right? And actually, let me cut that and go here. Yeah. First of all, if not as item, then return end. That is just a quick fix. Obviously, we will have a notification here on notify. We will tell them you don't have the required item, error, and have that be that. And we just return out of the event if they do not have the correct item. And yeah. So attempt to take item. We've got 6 of them. Okay. I know this episode is getting a bit long, but let's just finish this logic. Right. I know it is the event I was looking for is add item if can. Okay. And I can't remember trigger minigame. Here we go. Attempt to add item over here. Local given. While actually let's do this. Local given is equal to null. While given is null, then wait. Let's just put an end while. It's while do. My bad. And we will wait for a split second. So let's just do 1 millisecond. And I think what I want to do is have a local timeout is equal to 1 second. We will do timeout is equal to timeout minus 1 after we've waited, and then if timeout is equal to 0, then end. Right, if timeout is equal to 0 and given is null, then we'll just return. So I'm thinking we might need 2 functions, right? First of all, before we actually trigger the minigame, we have to ask if we can add an item. And only if we can add the item do we trigger the minigame. Because it'll be quite annoying if you play through the minigame and then suddenly it tells you, hey, sorry, we can't add the item, you know, just do it again. So let's not do that. Let us not do that. So I think let's continue that in the next episode. Or comment that out as a reminder. We're still working on the interactions on objects and item requirements, because remember, we still have not finished this logic. So that is what we'll continue on next episode, where we will ask if we can add the item, and only if we can add it, we will trigger the minigame, and then only once it's successful, we will add the item. Right, so there'll be 2 new callbacks, if you will. Fantastic times. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it very much. And I'll catch you in the next one. Cheerio.